All right, welcome in. It's Thursday. It's time for Full Court Press. It's Thursday, my favorite day of the week. It's all the mid majors, all the conferences that I was joking the other day with Kelly. I said, there's no conference I dislike. It's just I like these leagues just as much as I like the big leagues, right? Like I love a good Big East game, Rob. But then last night I was over in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. Got to see Rider win their first Division One game of the season, and finally figured out where Lawrenceville, New Jersey is. That Siena people are guilty of being like, oh, well, Rider's just somewhere in New Jersey. I got to be honest, until last night, I had absolutely no clue where Rider was. And it turned out it's only like 40 minutes from my sister's house. So I took a ride out there. No cell phone service, but I made it to campus and got to see a good game. So was happy about that. How's your Thursday going so far, Rob Vino?
Yeah, Thursday in my neck of the woods here is windy as all heck, Adam. We have winds blowing through. My office here at home is on an outside wall of the house, so I can hear it loud and clear since about 5 a.m. this morning, ripping through here. But I tell you what, nothing to complain about because last night, off another 5-1, 6 plays, 5 got home. The sixth did not get home, but was probably the best or one of the best endings in college basketball so far this season. You'll see these types of highlights played before March Madness. SMU, they were not the better team in the game against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech was the better team, but SMU did enough to hang around, made a little bit of a push late. We're the beneficiary of not one because Virginia Tech went to the free throw line and missed the front end of a 1-and-1, which they rebounded with 3 seconds left in the game. Virginia Tech rebounded, so they got another crack at a 1-and-1, missed again with 2.6 left. SMU grabbed the rebound. Andy Enfield called timeout, and of course, he drew up a Boopy Miller half-court swish. But that's the way that one ended. SMU wins 77-76. I needed that team total to go over 80.5. But the other 5 total plays that I had all went over the number. So I just really quick here, and I know you're the same way. I'm not big on the pat on the back. I seldom do it, but I will say 11-2 in college hoop to start the week, Monday through Wednesday. Best at WagerTalk over the 3-day period, and 19-9 over the last 7. Also the best at WagerTalk over the last 7 days. So been a good run. I've talked about how it's been since December 1st, and it continues on. Good results last night, Adam. And in your case, Rider comes up with a victory against Iona. How improbable would that seem?
Rob, I'm kicking myself because appreciate you carrying the team. Of course, we have a joint package, which I'll get the promo out of the way now. You can get mine and Rob's plays for 3 days at a discounted rate. It's up on both of our pages. I went 0-2 last night. It was my first sort of bad day since like the first of the year. Not too worried about that. I am kicking myself because if I played a third, it would have been Rider. And they go out and get the outright win. Rob, I had Northwestern last night, plus 9.5. I felt like I deserved to cover that one. It's a 4-point game late. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. All I know is he might as well have been Luca in the final 4 minutes. Just pick and pop, daggering me with 3 after 3. And then Nick Martinelli had a chance to cover at the end, and he missed the shot. So 0-2 for me yesterday. We're going to work around that here. I'll give at least one of my client plays out on the show today because it's a big slate. I'm going to have a couple, but we'll get into it. Hopefully we can produce another day. You know what? I'm going to make two things. One, blaming yesterday on Wawa. I'm back on my usual grind here, Rob. Got the energy drink. No coffee this morning. I'm ready to go. And let's do 3-teamer for the parlay. That's when I left off too as well. Oral Roberts yesterday. We had a great number in the parlay. That got down to like 6 or 6.5 at one point. I think we locked it in the show at like 8.5. And Denver, hey, they can score some points. So let's get into it. Let's talk that we got to talk the one top 10 team playing on a mid-major Thursday. And that's the Gonzaga Bulldogs. I don't know if they're a threat to go down here, Rob, but it's notable that they'll be going on the road. A little bit of an in-state rivalry. Haven't been to the Pacific Northwest, but I don't think these two schools are very far apart. Any chance for the Washington State Cougars in Pullman tonight?
Yeah, real quick, where you're concerned, routine is everything, Adam. So I'm glad you're back in the routine. And I just want to make this one last housekeeping note before we get into it. Yesterday, you had a guy or a viewer in the chat who was asking the question about a season package. Is a season package of mine and your plays available to be purchased? And you made the recommendation, and I think that they followed through because
Yes.
there is a price point on that package. So for those of you who may be interested in the same thing, a season long through March Madness, that is available at the WagerTalk.com offices.
Yeah, nicest. We have the best customer support people in the business. That is something that deserves way more attention than it gets. The girls in the office do a tremendous job. So typically, you send them an email, say hi, and be nice, and they'll give you whatever you ask for.
Yeah, shout out to Missy M2 and the crew there that do a great job for us while we get to do what we know how to do, which is this. West Coast Conference at Washington State, new member. Obviously, a little bit of unfamiliarity between the two. I noticed a couple of things here, Adam. I'm going to preface it by saying I haven't played yet, but I want to try and just build the case for the underdog here because it's excessive points and they're at home. But Washington State, to start the WCC season, has been pretty good. Right? They're off to a nice 3-2 start in a new league, in a league with pretty good teams, a couple at least at the top that are annually there in consideration for NCAA tournament bids. Gonzaga always gets one. St. Mary's generally gets one. They go to St. Mary's last game, only lose 88-82 against St. Mary's, which is a difficult place to play. We've talked about it often on the show. So Washington State, not a venue that they're used to going to, comes up pretty big there. Before that, they beat fellow Pac-10 member, ex-Pac-10 member, or Pac-12 Oregon State. Prior to that, at home, they beat Loyola Marymount. So 2-0 at home on this floor. And now, of course, we've said this about a few teams the last few days. The team with the bullseye on their chest walks in. Everybody wants to give Gonzaga their best shot. Gonzaga walks in. A couple of things that Washington State does well enough, I think, here to potentially hang within the number. A, let me just start by saying Gonzaga is better in every facet of basketball than Washington State is, from personnel right down to whatever category you'd like to pick. But there's certain things that Washington State does really well that might let them hang in here. A, defensive rebound. They're fourth in the country in defensive rebound percentage. And if Gonzaga has a bunch of one and outs here in somewhat of a strange gym, then or arena, I'll call it an arena, like I should, then one and outs serve Washington State really well. Washington State is a middle of the road, good enough 3-point shooting team. Washington State's an above average 2-point shooting team. These things matter in a contest like this. Gonzaga, obviously, when you play them, you have to get to the boards. Like I mentioned, defensive rebounding could be important here in favor of Washington State. And you got to make shots, plain and simply. You can't turn it over, and that's kind of where Washington State might be in a little bit of trouble here. Not the best ball handling group, not the best at forcing turnovers. In fact, far below average in each category. So if there's a problem there that can lead to one of those patented Gonzaga, 12-0, 15-2 type runs, then you've got issues. The good news about that is you're at home. And I feel like on your home floor, where you're already 2-0 in league, you probably have a really good chance or a better chance of absorbing that punch than you would on the road. Like if this game was in the kennel and Gonzaga goes on a 12-0 run, you're probably toast if you're Washington State. But at home, with your crowd behind you and what should be a pretty upbeat atmosphere, I would think that they could absorb. David Riley doing a real good job there as head coach. That would be my case for Washington State. Total-wise, I think it's interesting that Washington State, without the help of overtime, gets to 170 against St. Mary's. I really can't see that happening again. And when you're handicapping totals, the variance of game to game, style to style, matchup to matchup is really important to figure in. I would think this one probably, because it's priced so high, Adam, as far as total is concerned, maybe stays underneath that number. So again, without having a play on the game, I can build somewhat of a case for Washington State, and I can build somewhat of a case for the under.
Yeah, I was just going to the board to see what the price is now. 17.5. Like, I'm definitely in agreement. That opener of 19 was high. I think I'm at like 17.1. So it doesn't surprise me that it's trended down toward where it is now, which is 17.5. Man, the problem for me with Washington State, they definitely are a team that's prone, in my opinion, to giving up a big run. They turn it over a ton, something you really can't do against Gonzaga. Now, I'll go back to a point you made. I think it's the fact that you're not in the kennel makes it a little bit more forgiving, right? Like, you start turning the ball over in front of that crowd, that atmosphere. I mean, that's a 10-0 run in about 2 seconds. Whereas, on the road, maybe a little bit more forgiving. You make a great point about the rebounding. That there might be some cheap points here for Washington State and their ability to at least, I don't know if they're going to match Gonzaga on the glass. Gonzaga is a top 10, top 15 rebounding team in the country, but they're not going to get crushed on the boards like some of the other teams in this league have by Gonzaga, who are far inferior on the boards than let's say Washington State is. They're going to need to hit some threes, but hey, they have ace glass. That's one thing that could keep you're talking about covering an 17.5 here, Rob. You got a guy like Ace Glass who's playing at the level he's playing at. Last time out, goes for 24 against St. Mary's. He can create his own shot like that. A guy like that might be good enough to cover 19, right? And then the supporting cast isn't that bad. Richards Vavers, Mac guy, came from Quinnipiac a couple of years ago, finally starting to get in the mix. I kind of expected more out of him when he showed up in Pullman last year. He's been like, okay, he had a really good game against me, of course, with against Loyola Marymount. I'm sorry. That was, I watched that game. He had 17, and I remember thinking, I don't think I had action there, but I remember thinking, man, it's nice to see him scoring, because I kind of thought that he would be, a scoring option for this Washington State team. And then they lose a man, the names on this team, Rob. Towson went down at the end of December, and he was someone that was kind of waiting to see who was going to replace him from a production standpoint. Vavers has kind of been that guy. So yeah, I see enough redeeming qualities where you could talk me into Washington State plus 19. Because we missed the move a little bit, I know it's like 1.5 points on a big number, but that does matter. I think I'd want at least 18.5. But as you know, with these Gonzaga games, as the betting public starts to roll in, there's almost always like buyback, pushback as the day goes on. So I think if this one got back to 19, or even better, like made it to 19.5, I think I'd be willing to take a look at the Washington State side.
Yeah, it's got a national television broadcast here too, Adam, which at 10 at night Eastern time, 7 o'clock Pacific, will draw attention, right? People making the late game bet on the game that's on TV. That will be Washington State Gonzaga. So the point of the number may going back toward Gonzaga because the public isn't going to favor Washington State here. It could be applicable in this case. Maybe you want to wait on it. Oh, and I see Garth has made his way in. Okay.
Yeah, no. For me personally, definitely no play in that one right now. Going to kind of see how the day goes. But if Gonzaga takes what seems to be their like daily bump, someone's going to play back at that move to just about guarantee it. If it steams and gets to the point where suddenly we're back at the opener or higher, I think you could start to look toward Washington State. It's a big number. That Washington State is very capable of at least not getting embarrassed on their home floor. I think that's the point that we'll probably leave that game with. And we'll move on. Garth, I'm glad you bring this one up. So we'll Rob Vina, we're gonna have a third play. I just don't know how we're gonna do it. Maybe it's something we agree on. Maybe we agree with someone in the chat. Maybe Bayou pops up or Garth is confident in a play. We'll use theirs. I want to do a 3-teamer today because there's just too many good games. We got to get three. Got to go back to a 3-teamer today. Switch it up. Garth brings up a game that I'm very interested in. And he's got an interesting angle here because he says thoughts on Hawaii team total under 80.5. Just seems too high for me. Second road game of the season for the Bows. Yeah, the Hawaii really didn't leave the island at all in non-conference play. They hosted at MTE. They picked off games against some teams that were coming over for the Maui. And they pretty much just, Rob, I believe they went to Oregon the first game of the season, opened their season in Eugene against Oregon in a game they almost won, and then pretty much just posted up at the Stan Sheriff Center for like 2.5 months or 2 months. The travel now that Hawaii is in the Big West, all they have to do is to go to California. So it's not terrible for them, in my opinion. But what do you think about that? Because this was a game that I kind of looked at a glance and said, Cal Poly might be able to keep this close, and there might be points here. So I don't know if I agree with the under, but I also, he's kind of asking, like, from a numericals perspective, is that number too high? You're the totals guy. Help Garth out. Hawaii, Cal Poly, late night.
Yeah, first off, anything involving Cal Poly, I just don't know if it's too high. The speed they're going to play at, the lack of defense that goes with that. When you play high pace, it doesn't even necessarily mean you're bad defenders. It just means that there's always open space on the floor. There's always tempo. So where Cal Poly is concerned as far as defending or preventing Hawaii from getting over 80.5, I'm not sure. And when I go to the 2 Hawaii road games so far this season, go to Riverside, score 88. Go to UC San Diego, score 73. UC San Diego is a better defensive team than Cal Poly is. So when you get 73 there, can you get 81 here? Hawaii is a good enough shooting team to do so. So it would be difficult for me. I think if this game were on the island, I would lean more towards Hawaii home defense and Hawaii controlling or dictating a little more of the pace. I just don't know that Hawaii can go into this arena, into Cal Poly's home, and sort of dictate and play at the tempo and the style that they want to. If you want to make the case that you think Cal Poly could stay under their team total because Hawaii has been so good defensively, their metrics are off the chart defensively, then, I couldn't even do that because Cal Poly moves at such a rapid rate, because Cal Poly gets the ball in the bucket. And with them, for me, it always comes back, and this is just one solo game, but the game that they played earlier this season against UCLA, where UCLA, I believe it was Sky Clark, came out at the half and said, we can't believe they play that fast and they shoot that many threes. And then Mick Cronin got on him in the locker room and sort of leveled it off. But Cal Poly was able to get 87 on the road against that UCLA defense and forced that game, by the way, to a 195 final score total. And we know UCLA is predicated in defense. So it's hard for me, Garth, to go ahead and play the Hawaii team total under. It's not to say it can't happen, but the fundamentals, the styles, the matchups, the venue all tell me that I'd be like closing my eyes the entire time and maybe not even watching, just checking back for a score and praying that I'm still under 80.5.
Yeah, but Cal Poly is one of those teams that your boy is just not allowed to bet, Rob, because every time I bet Cal Poly, I get a good number. I beat like a 2-point move, and then they get crushed. If I don't bet them, they win outright as an 8-point dog. It's just one of those teams that I cannot pick the right spots with. Once again here, I very much agree with the early money. This opened 7. Looks like you're down to 5.5. Makes complete sense. I think my number, I've got it right here, 3.9. So I probably missed that one just from a straight up, like, had I still had the opportunity to take 7, I probably would bet that with Cal Poly. But at the same time, the concerns are for me, and I guess I'd be concerned for Garth, is can they stop Hawaii? They don't defend the rim at all. Hawaii, that's the thing about this Hawaii team, and that I've gone and said, okay, well, Hawaii's very good this year. So because they're good and everyone knows they're good, at home, you're paying like this massive premium to back Hawaii. I was curious if when they went on the road, you'd get them at a discount because people are just so like the average bettor now is so tuned into home road splits and playing the home spot. We've seen it all week. It's been really, really difficult to get good numbers on home teams, especially when they're like the spot type plays. And, I'm almost wondering now, 5.5, like, are we just, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like Hawaii, is that a cheap price on Hawaii? I guess not for me because I made the number 3.9, but still I'm a little bit tentative. I'm hesitant to just play one of these lesser teams against Hawaii because this year Hawaii is actually good. In years past, when they had bad teams, yeah, I never had an issue fading them on the road, but I think this Hawaii's team is good. And that's my concern is that they score at will and just overwhelm Cal Poly at some point. If Poly can score, they're going to cover this number, but then it's going to go over. So that makes it tough. The game that I think is going to happen has a bunch of points in it. So I think, Garth, I'd probably say no to the under. But hey, if you do get there with it, I wish you luck.
Well, then Garth has an early number as well because the full game total has been pushed up 6 points already from 151.5 to 157.5. And the team total Garth asked about is now 81.5, which gives him a little more room to stay under. And perhaps, I mean, with Cal Poly, I wouldn't say that the total move upward is finished yet. Again, it's a late card start. Plenty of time for more action. Obviously, the syndicates, the early betting groups have gotten what they wanted out of it. I don't know that they'll push it all that much higher, but they still could. The game's probably not coming backwards unless somebody feels like it's going to land in between those two numbers. I don't know. Garth, you've got extra room. You have 81.5 now. So if you like it, you've got an extra point to work with here. I would just be scared to play that side under the number against this defense and at this pace that I think it's going to be played at.
Rob, Alumni Gym last night in Lawrenceville had tremendous Wi-Fi, which was so huge for me because my phone still didn't work. Of course, there was like a massive Verizon outage yesterday that was affecting like the Philly. Well, actually, like affected a lot of the country. And I was so thrilled to show up and like the Wi-Fi was spectacular. So unfortunately for me, it meant I got to watch all my games lose. Well, just the 2. I only had 2 last night. But I hope, because I can't stay away, Rob, I hope the same thing holds true tonight at the CQ Arena, the SECU Arena. That's where I'll be tonight for Charleston, Towson. Realize it's less than 2 hours from my sister's house. And, I've never been to this building, so I can't stay away. Bayou says he kind of likes Towson today. Might need someone to throw some cold water over my head. Yeah. My initial look here was, where's the offense coming from in this game for either of these teams? Charleston's been a little bit better. You noted a couple of maybe a week and a half ago that Charleston was going to be better as they got some of their guys back. And you've been very much right about that. 4-0 to start conference play. I got to be honest, one of the biggest sort of, mind F's this year so far for me, Rob, is Towson starting 1-4 in the Coastal. I thought they probably were going to win this league this year. They finally get a win last time out against Northeastern. Man, Bayou, I'm with you. I kind of like Towson too, but I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. What do you think, Rob? Side or total here to you? Charleston, Towson from Maryland tonight.
Well, there's probably no way I play an over in a Towson game in Towson's building. Again, I'm repetitive about this, but it's just one of the handicapping angles I use where I always believe that if there's a contrast in styles, that the home team will be the one to dictate the tempo of the game more than half of it. So if it's a 40-minute game, I'm saying, somewhere around 25. Let's go 24-16 split. The home team should at least have that much of a favorable edge the way they want to play the game. In that instance, it's going to be played way too slow. And I just feel like slow teams affect quicker teams in a negative way constantly. Now, when we take a look at what Charleston has gone through in the CAA so far, no longer Colonial Athletic Association, last couple of years, Coastal now. I always have to catch myself. I show my age when I say Colonial. But, you know, Bill and Mary, you're supposed to go over against them. You're supposed to put up 167 as a full game total. Elon 166. But Charleston has shown since they got their couple guys back is they're flexing their offensive muscle a little bit. Their tempo has definitely increased. Last game against Hampton, only a 63 possession game, but 63 possessions because it was shot because Hampton shot the ball so well from the field. So it just limits the amount of possessions. I think Charleston comes in here. Towson's ready. Towson's a really good team. We talked about it before. A team that probably should have been on top of the league as far as preseason prognostications go and just failed miserably out of the chute, but finally got the monkey off their back and beat Northeastern in their last outing. Now for Towson, that was way too high of a scoring game for their liking. It's a win, but a 165 against Northeastern, Adam. And again, I think I said, I talked a little about variance earlier, and this is all just, this handicapping is not an exact science. But for me, there's always a baseline number that a team's going to be able to score. And then game to game, you have to watch the variance. For me, this would be normally when I say bounce back, I mean they're going to score more. In this, it would probably be a pushback where I think Towson gets the game back down into the category where they like it, especially against the team. When you're playing teams that you're better than or that you believe you're better than, your fear to run with them is not as much. When you're playing a team that's equal to or better than you, you want to impose your will. I think that's probably what happens here in this Towson game. We see the number at 141.5. For me, I know Bayou brought this game up, but for me, where total is concerned, that number, I think oddsmakers having a really good place. Like I could see the game ending in that area, 72-69, something like that, which makes it way too close. So I won't play. Money's come in on Charleston. Personnel-wise, they're better. Can they overcome the contrast in style and what they're going to face here with a team that's really good as far as league play is concerned and is off their first win, probably a little bit of a confidence booster?
Yeah, I will find a spot to play against Charleston like in the very near future because I just listen, they're definitely better than what they, like Colby Duggan being back has been pretty huge for them. He had 22 in his last game. And this team played a lot of the non-conference without Duggan, without Connor Hickman. Mr. Right. Dean is done for the year. So that's like considerable losses. So to get two of those guys back, you were very much right about that. Getting those two back has been huge for them, but they've kind of had a favorable start to conference play. They're 4-0 in conference, but they beat Drexel, Elon, William & Mary, Hampton. I guess William & Mary is pretty good. Elon's been better than I thought, and they won that game on the road. So again, I'm not like totally confident in my rating of Charleston yet, because obviously it's a different team than I thought it was going to be at the beginning of the season. Different team than we saw in non-conference. Now they bring a couple guys back. They look better, but this team, in my opinion, is not running away with this league. On the other side of the coin, Rob, Towson to me is still better than a 1-4 team, but they've got to find a way to put the ball in the basket. It just, I really thought this year Tyler Tejada and Dylan Williamson were just going to make tough shots and be able to carry this team offensively. they really haven't done it. I mean, they're getting their points, right? 16.7 points per game for Tejada, Williamson averaging double figures, but they really just, it hasn't translated to wins recently. And then they've been without Doumbia. So Jack Doumbia for Towson has missed the last 2 games. He was the other double-digit scorer. Towson can't really afford to lose a double-digit scorer, and they have the last couple of games. They don't have enough scoring to just lose a guy like that. So possible that the Charleston money maybe knows he's going to be out again. Also, I also think people just saw and said Towson can't be a favorite in this game because Charleston's better. Don't totally disagree with that either. My number came out Towson -1. It's now Towson -1. I think Towson finds a way. They're such a tough team. If they can clean up the offensive glass, which I think they might be able to do here, I think they find a way to win this game. But I just don't know if I'm confident enough to fire anything on it. We'll see if Bayou is. I know he's over there saying he wants to do it, but should be a pretty good game. Probably low scoring. That's the other thing I'll say about that one. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to the chat here. You know what? I'm going to I'll give my. I said I was going to give a client play out on the show, and I see one moving a little bit. I just want to double check to the point where I think this is the one I'll give because we're going to be able to just put the money line in the parlay. So I want to talk Cal Baptist, Abilene Christian, WAC basketball tonight, Rob Bino. I played Abilene Christian -115. They've taken a little bit of money. That was what I kind of saw as I try to check the odd screen out of the corner of my eye. I'm down a screen today. So it's the good news is we won't have the people in the chat say, what's Trig looking at off to the left and off to the right? Because I don't have that other screen, Rob. The bad news is I kind of have to keep toggling to see the board. Steve Duke said, yeah, it was a good case for a pass in the Towson game. We're here to talk these games out and try to give you different angles so you can make the best decision possible. That being said, we're also here to give out picks, and I'm going to give out Abilene Christian -115. I'm good with any money line. I think it's up to -130. That's going to be my parlay leg. It's a 4% play for me for clients. I've got at least one of those, or at least 2 of those today. So I'm going to give one out here on the show. Rob, couple things here. So I got to see Cal Baptist play a couple weeks ago at Tarleton State. Tarleton won that game. I bet Tarleton in that game. And what I like to do against Cal Baptist, I've said this on the show a couple of times, if you have guards that can clamp down Baptist guards, you're going to have a really good chance to win. And Abilene Christian plays outstanding perimeter defense. Their guards can defend, and I think they're going to do a really good job on Cal Baptist guards. Now, those 2, Dom Daniels, Martell Williams, very good players, but Martell did not play last game, which is a huge concern if you're Cal Baptist. If Martell Williams is still out here, which I have no idea if he is or not, I just know he didn't play his last game. I don't see any way Cal Baptist wins this game on the road without him. There's we talked about travel in Conference USA, Rob. It's hard to win on the road in the WAC too. And Cal Baptist kind of gets the short end of the stick in that regard because they have to go to Texas a couple of different times. It's one of the longer trips in the league. There's 7 teams in the WAC right now, and 4 of them or 3 or 4 of them are still in Texas. Cal Baptist is all the way in Riverside, California. So no matter what, they're either going to travel to Utah to some altitude in most cases, or they're going to have to travel to Texas. And this is their second Texas trip in quick succession because they were just there a couple weeks ago. So, I look at this game, I say Baptist has to go on the road. Abilene, in my opinion, does what Tarleton does better than Tarleton does it in their ability to defend. Billy Gillespie and his guards play really Gillespie. I always say his name wrong too. Those guards play really good defense. Abilene's are arguably better. And now Cal Baptist might be without one of they only have 2 super creative players on the team. It's Daniels and it's Martell. You take one of those guys off the floor, I don't see how Cal Baptist has any chance to win. If he plays, I still don't think they win. So I took Abilene Christian on the money line here.
Yeah, they struggled with Southern Utah without him last game. Southern
Yeah.
Utah is not a very good basketball team at all. And to Abilene Christian's credit, like you mentioned about the guards clamping down, they force a lot of turnovers. You have to be good with the basketball against that team. Abilene Christian probably, needs 2.5 shots to make one. They haven't shot the ball well this year. But if the other team's coming up with empty possessions, it makes a difference. In the amount they can score, and B, and how close Abilene can keep this game. So let's roll with that as one side. You know what? Let's just, I'm going to get off of for a second and to the chat. If I'm wrong here tonight, I promise I'll go back to team totals. But I want to, or game totals, because last night I think I had FIU game over and it went sailing over. And it's what I'm best at. But I just saw one tonight. We're going to lock in at least two parts of this parlay now, Adam. This is simply from a matchup standpoint where I like the home team, South Alabama, plus 3.5 against Arkansas State. Again, it's one of those games that falls into the category that I talked about earlier, where I like, or not that I like, but I do think that home teams with contrasting styles, especially if the home team is a slow-paced team, affects a quicker-paced squad. And I think that's what we have here in the case of Arkansas State against South Alabama. Arkansas State, for what it's worth, we've talked about them enough this year. They've been pretty good to me as far as payouts. Cashing tickets has been concerned this year. They want to get up and down the floor. They play at a fast pace. South Alabama with Richie Riley, head coach, the exact opposite. Slow tempo. If you want exact numbers, 317 and adjusted offensive tempo. But how about this? The 365 Division I teams that are bettable that we cover here, they're 300. Let's say that they keep the opponent to the 360th slowest average time of possession. They make you work on that end, almost 19 full seconds. It's not what Arkansas State wants to do whatsoever. I talk often about comp game, and they come right off of one. They just played Georgia Southern. South Alabama did. Georgia Southern, again, another one of those Nate Oates 2.0 teams, right? Assistant coach there at Georgia Southern. What happens? South Alabama wins that game 87-71 on this floor by 16 against a team that wants to do what Arkansas State does, get up and down, score a lot of points, don't want to be bothered, harassed on the defensive end. Transition defense for South Alabama, really good. Shot making when it counted against a team that plays this same style was really good. They almost got to 90 points. I'm going to take my chances that they come through and do it again. Both of these teams are 12-5, by the way, so it's two good teams. It's not like you're betting a poor home underdog here. Arkansas State just getting a little bit more respect power rating wise than South Alabama is at this point in time inside the conference. Arkansas State 4-1, South Alabama 3-2. A South Alabama win here at home, which I think they would have this targeted as one that they want to win, would put them in a tie with Arkansas State, potentially in second place if Georgia Southern were to lose their next game. So for me, it's going to be take the points with the contrasting home dog that's already proven that they can beat this style of team as recently as this past weekend. So give me South Alabama in this parlay, Adam, at plus 3.5. And again, if I'm wrong tonight, guys, in the chat, I apologize. And tomorrow, I guarantee you, we'll get back to totals. But I think this one shapes up. All the ingredients here signal to me that this should be a home underdog cover, if not straight up win.
Yeah, I really like that too. You talk about cover. Can't believe you're getting 3.5 here. I actually make this South Alabama -1. Yeah, that's what I had. South Alabama -1. So the fact that you're getting a full possession in a matchup, South Alabama at home, matchup's definitely going to favor South Alabama because they have the ability to negate everything, as you were saying, that Arkansas State wants to do. And they're probably going to be able to score against this Arkansas State team. So why even overthink it more than that? I feel like there's nothing else that even needs to be said. You're getting a great number. I think that's a fantastic bet. I'm glad you're using it in the parlay. I like that one as well. All right, let's move on. Garth is back in, but he brings up a game that a whole bunch of you guys want to talk about. Jose Perez jumped in, says Elon rolls tonight. Garth says thoughts on Elon -3.5. Already a rematch. Yeah, it's crazy. We had one the other day. We actually had one last night in Conference USA. It's crazy that we're almost to the part of the year where you might see some teams playing for the second time. This, I believe, is Elon up at the I don't know the name of the building yet, Rob, because they just moved there. But Northeastern has a small on-campus facility that they will be playing home games at for probably the next year and a half or so. Matthews Arena, of course, has closed finally, which is sad. The place was built in 1910, one of the most historic arenas in the entire country for any sport, and they finally closed it down. So Northeastern back on campus. Tonight they take on Elon. The first meeting, Rob, you're a totals guy. The first meeting was 103-91 down in Elon. Northeastern won that game. I got to be honest, Elon's been way better than I thought they were going to be this year. I thought, losing Matthew Van Komen and some of the guys that they had on that team last year, I had Elon way downgraded coming into the year. This team's been pretty good, and they've kind of done it with scoring. They said, okay, well, maybe we can't be the super defensive zone type team that we were last year. No problem. We're just going to go out and score points. Garth likes Elon. What do you think here, side or total?
Real quick, just to your first thoughts in your analysis, the building that they're going to play in tonight, Northeastern, is called Cabot Center. It's the absolute smallest attendance in Division I, 812 capacity. Can't even get
I know. It's on my list, Rob. I got to get over there. I got to get over there.
You have to be one of these 812 that get into the place. You want to talk about quaint and cozy. That's quaint and cozy. And if Northeastern were a better team, then perhaps you would find really good home results. I mean, it's just the kind of place where home results should correlate to better than what Northeastern has produced so far. Back-to-back losses. Now, again, let's preface it by saying UNC Wilmington may be the best team in the league. They lose to them here. Towson, we just talked about how we both believe and how preseason prognostications believe that Towson was going to be in the mix. Here, they've gotten off to a rugged start, but they lose to them in this building. It's their third straight home. It's a revenge game. And again, I'm just rattling off things why potentially Northeastern could be there. It's a brand new shooting venue for Elon, although the first two teams in didn't seem to have a lot of trouble scoring 87 each. I talked earlier about Towson not being a fast-paced team. They scored 87 in this building. So Elon's kind of sacrificed defense for offense. I went back really quick earlier this morning and just checked Billy Taylor, the head coach's numbers since he's been at Elon. And it's by far the most offensively efficient team he's had in 4 years. It's not close. I think that the adjusted offensive, the closest was 14% lower than what it is this year. They don't go necessarily quick as far as length of possession is concerned, but they shoot it really, really well at him. And that's probably, I hate to be so simplistic, but sometimes basketball is just a game of making shots, right? And for this side on Elon, they make shots. The other team doesn't. Northeastern, actually, they don't make them at the rate Elon makes them. They make enough. They couldn't quite outscore them the first time, 103-91. Is there a 13-point? Well, let me just check the exact number that we're dealing with here on this game so I can give you a good, accurate. Yeah, you're getting, well, it's pushed up to 3.5 now. Okay, so what you have to ask yourself, is there 10 points worth of difference than what happened the first time because Northeastern's home here and maybe they have a little bit of revenge? I don't know if there's 10. I mean, if there's 6, 7, 8, 9 points worth of difference, you still don't cover. Actually, that goes up to 8, 6, 7, or 8. You still don't cover. So it's hard to get to the Northeastern side. I would think you go ahead and play Elon, but more than that, and this total was probably priced too high to begin with at 164.5 because 103.91 is a little bit of a one-off. It looks really good, but you have to consider the fact. And again, guys, in the chat, you'll hear me say this all season long, but coaches love to fix what went wrong the first time, if possible. Going to go back to the game tape, going to say, how did we give up 103? How can we prevent giving up 103? The other side's going to say, well, you know what? We gave up 91, but we still won by 12. So I don't know how much we have to change. The regression could be on the Elon side if Northeastern comes up with answers. It could also be that they're not good enough to come up with answers. Total's been pushed down by 4 full points. Somebody thinks it's not going to get to 64.5. I don't know that that somebody is me. I'd probably look Elon's way, Adam. I don't see this game reversing by, like I said, more than 8 points off of what it did the first time, which was Elon win by 12. So no play, but a lean on the Elon side minus the points. So I'll agree with the line move. Probably, if you got in early, congratulations. You got a way better number.
Yeah, I'm going to offer my 2 cents here. And while I do that, I want to see if the chat wants to make this the third leg of the parlay by using Elon money line. It would basically be like splitting the difference, right? I think we both agree on Elon. It feels like the chat kind of leans that way. And then we'll just go money line and ask them to win, not have to cover because we're doing a 3-teamer anyway. Thing I want to point out here is Yuri Fritz got hurt 2 minutes into that Towson game. And I think if nothing else, just forget, you already handicapped the game perfectly. I don't even need to go into that. At what point can Northeastern can't lose another play? It's like, how many players can they lose before you have to like plummet their rating off the cliff? Remember, L.A. Pratt was supposed to be their best player. He gets hurt 3 games into the season. They've been without Xander Alare since mid-December. Fritz has been their leading scorer. He was up to 11.5 points per game. Former Canisius Golden Griff, Rob. He was really good at Canisius. He's been at Northeastern the last 2 years. This year, finally getting a chance to play. I don't think he's going to play. As far as I know, he's not playing tonight. He went out 2 minutes into that game. I don't think that's totally baked in here to the number either. You talk about, right there, that's arguably 3 of the most impactful players on Northeastern's roster. And in this league, in some of these lesser leagues, I just don't think those injuries get baked in quick enough. Obviously the first 2, Pratt's been gone all season for the most part. Alaire's been gone since mid-December. But now you lose another guy that's really been like doing the majority of your scoring. And Elon dropped 103 on you last time out. And you're supposed to have enough firepower to win this game. I kind of think Elon wins. I may even later. That 3.5 doesn't even seem that crazy at this point, knowing that he's probably out. And for me, I think personally, I've just been wrong on Elon. I think I had them rated way too low coming into the year because of some of the guys they left. But you pointed out they have their most efficient offense that they've had ever under Billy Taylor. So why would we not just throw Elon money line in and close out the parlay, make it a 3-teamer like that? Yeah, and that's it. My rhetorical question.
Just to be fair, where head coaching is concerned, and I said coaches love to fix what went wrong. Bill Cohen's not in his 20th year at Northeastern for no reason. This is an excellent head coach who's dealing with a shorthanded roster, right? So his game plan, his blueprint to win here is try and shorten this game as best you can. Try and chop off as many off of that 103 that his team gave up the first time as you can, and hope that you hang around in this new gym. Hope that maybe Elon comes in here and, finds the shooting difficult. But as I mentioned earlier, the 2 teams that have been here, Adam, they found no difficulty scoring 87 points, either one of them, Wilmington or Towson. So it's going to be a tough. It's like climbing Mount Everest here for Northeastern in the personnel shape that they're in right now.
Yeah, and one of those teams, as you said, is Towson, who hadn't been able to score against anyone, prior to that game last weekend. So yeah, unless Jose Perez says Elon rolls, I trust him. I trust Garth. So unless someone comes up with something better in the next 10 minutes, that's going to be the third leg. We'll go Elon money line for the third leg of our parlay. We still got some time. So let's get in. Oh, you know what? Bayou brings up one. You said you wanted to talk about this next time it popped up. So let's talk about it. William and Mary team total was going to be a target for you. I don't know. Did you get your money in that already? I think we brought this up about a week ago. I know they played over the weekend, but you have another chance again here. They're a favorite tonight. What do you think, William and Mary?
Yeah, they stood me up again, Adam. And I listened the bet the third time around just to see, because it could have been a matter of being overpriced, right? You never know. Like you say, the odds makers, probably sharper nowadays than ever. And the numbers that they put up are difficult to beat. So you know what, as stubborn as I am, of Italian heritage, known to be style, bang my head against the brick wall. And I banged it against the brick wall one more time tonight. I do think Bayou's onto something. I'm back with William and Mary in this particular matchup. He's talking about in this, if I'm reading it right, are you better off laying the quarter and playing over 87.5 than you are taking a cheaper VIG at 105 and moving it up to 88.5, where you have to score 89 points. And I'm not sure I would disagree with that. Is the 20 cents worth 1 point, though? In my estimation, with William and Mary, no. If William and Mary's got, I'll probably have to come on here tomorrow and retract everything I'm about to say. But I'm going to say that if William and Mary's good enough to get to 88 in this matchup, against A&T, North Carolina A&T, then they're good enough to get to 89. Now, some of the things that held them back, I go back a couple of games to the Charleston game, which I had the team. That was the first one that started this run of team totals that have stayed under. I think that number was maybe 81.5, 82.5. Boy, they missed a lot of shots. I remember telling you, in a comeback effort late, drive to the rim, layup, miss, get the rebound, go to the free throw line for a 1-and-1, miss, come back, shoot a 3, miss. They had every opportunity to go over in that game. Monmouth, they just didn't score. I thought, okay, bounce back is coming. But it was against Drexel, which, again, sometimes slow teams affect fast teams. I think it happened there. I don't know that A&T is going to be able to, on William and Mary's home floor, be able to prevent William and Mary from doing what they do best. So yes, Bayou, I'm back in on that side here. Actually was a client release today. And if I were you, I would just, I'll say what I did or what I would do. I would go ahead and play over 88.5 at the cheaper price, because I don't think the 1 point's going to make a difference in this matchup.
Yeah, I had I figured out the game that this reminded me of yesterday. So kind of reminds me, we broke down UCLA Penn State yesterday. And I kind of made the point when we talked about that game, Penn State played, 3 really good games. And it's like, did they use it all up? And it looked like they did, right? They were second best last night, ended up losing the game by 11. This is a NCAA team, Rob, that doesn't have much talent. Okay. Like last year, all their talented players, unfortunately, were trying to shave points. Okay. But then they left the school and they were left with what I consider to be probably a better team. If you were just like going to define the word team, you don't have things actively working against you inside your locker room. But, guys like Kami and Shell, guys like Landon Glasper, who I think transferred to Southern Miss and is sitting out a year, Jonathan Lamont, who is in the same conference, he's now at UNC Wilmington. Those were that was like the talent on this roster. This year, you got a group of guys that will absolutely go out there and give you an effort, but they just don't have the talent. And now you look at their last couple games, now that they're in conference play. Great effort against Wilmington, came up short. Lost to Northeastern. We just kind of talked about that Northeastern team not really being a great team. Again, they give an effort at Stony Brook. They come up short, cover, but come up short. Last time out, give an effort against Elon. They cover, but they come up short. You can only do that for so long until there's a game where you just get absolutely blitzed by a team that's better, that has more talent. And I think that's this team, Rob. I think William and Mary, especially on their home court, as all of my lights die, but that's okay. We only have I'm over here like I'm by a campfire now. I don't know how all of my lights just died. Probably should charge them. Anyway, I got the flashlight by a campfire, Rob, but that's all right. We'll deal with it for the last 5 minutes. Point is, I think William and Mary could just destroy them tonight. I actually think you could lay it. I think you could lay the 13.5. I think that's too low. I made this 15.2. I just checked my numbers. So not the, I usually look for a little bit bigger of a discrepancy on a higher point favorite, but I think this is a spot where the Tribe, maybe even cheered on by Steve Merrill in person, because I know he goes to a lot of the home games. Maybe even Steve Merrill helps us get that one home. But yeah, William and Mary, Bayou in the chat says smash spot. I think that's a great way to put it. I think they probably roll tonight. All right, we still have a couple of minutes left. Let's go. You know what, Rob? I nearly made this the feature and then realized I would probably couldn't not make Gonzaga the feature tonight. Just because they're a top 10 team in the country. I want to talk New Mexico State Liberty because it's a nationally televised game, one of the first games off the board. And, I still think there's merit to the discussion we brought up yesterday. It is really tough to win on the road in this league with the mileage these teams are logging. And then just look at what happens last night. Middle Tennessee State up by like 20 at half. Just absolutely rolling. But they also went to El Paso and Las Cruces the week before, come out in the second half, completely run on a gas, score 18 points, and Louisiana Tech comes back and gets the win. Just another example of how difficult it's going to be to win on the road in this league. New Mexico State comes all the way to Lynchburg, Virginia tonight in a matchup that I don't think is great for New Mexico State. Rob, am I crazy to want to lay it with the Liberty Flames in this game?
I don't think so. Again, Liberty is a team that shoots it so well, Adam, and you put them on their home floor. This is the second time, by the way, that New Mexico State has gone into or taken a flight for a 2-game road trip inside the conference. But this one covers more distance. The first one was to Florida and then to Missouri. Not as bad as being a Virginia-Delaware trip. This is a hike for New Mexico State coming from Las Cruces. So we'll see how they handle it. Obviously, they've, like I say, had one before, but it just hasn't been as substantial distance-wise as this one is. Richie McKay's team shoots the basketball so well from three. The first thing I always check when I'm looking at Liberty opponents is how well do they defend the three. New Mexico State, pretty good at that. Pretty good at defense all around, which goes to their tradition, to their nature. They're usually a good defensive team. However, they don't put the ball in the basket, and you just wonder how many empty trips New Mexico State can have and survive on the other end against a team that shoots it this well. Liberty had a little bit of a stint here, Adam, where they weren't scoring up to their capability, but they're certainly scoring now. And it's one of those interesting contrasts that I spoke of a couple of days ago, where just because they play at a pedestrian style pace doesn't mean you can't score when you're as efficient as Liberty is. They just make shots. And defensively, it's tough to have to cover these guys as long as you have to. I just feel like at some point in this game, New Mexico State's defense wears out. Again, they're subject to being on the wrong end of a run from the Flames here. So I wouldn't look to the New Mexico State side. Travel is also a thing. And real quick, because we won't be able to talk about it tomorrow on Friday's show, because the game will go Saturday. If, for instance, New Mexico State does come up with a big performance here, I'd be more than willing to bet Delaware on Saturday as they take the second leg of this trip. So something to look at, guys, in these Conference USA 2-game road trips. First result, sometimes you can counter punch on the second game as well. But I would look Liberty this game. Muted.
Sorry, muted. Got some light back for a minute. These clip-on lights are the best I've ever used for this, but you do have to charge them. And when you forget, they die. So that's what happened to me right there. As far as this game is concerned, last year, Liberty won these two matchups by 8 and 10. Didn't really shoot the ball particularly well in either. So, putting them in their home gym tonight, you got to think that they probably have a chance to shoot it better. If they do, I would be, part of the reason I played Middle Tennessee State against New Mexico State over the weekend was New Mexico State had just been giving anything and everything up from three, and Middle Tennessee State sort of had their way in that game. They were able to get the shots they wanted. They went to Las Cruces and won, which is very impressive because we've talked about how hard it is to win games on the road in this league. I don't know what the tally is right now, but going into Saturday, it was 20-4, and it can't be much better. I know there's been a couple, but it can't be much better than that at this point. So New Mexico State having to come all the way from Las Cruces to Lynchburg. If Liberty's putting the ball in the basket tonight, I think this one could get ugly. So I strongly considered Liberty minus 8.5 in this game. And Rob, I'm supposed to promo. So I think you guys have requested us our presence on Saturday, and I believe WagerTalk is going to make that happen. So I think this week I'll be on Last Call with Kelly, but then in future weeks, I'm supposed to promo the fact that we will start to do a Saturday show as we get deep into conference play. It will be impossible to get as in the weeds as we do on this show because there's so many games. But at worst, we're going to come on and hit some of the big games, take a couple of chat questions. So look out for that. I think I will be on this Saturday. Again, I should probably know this before I come on the show and talk about it, but keep an eye out for that. The other thing, again, one more time before I close this show out and recap the parlay, is Rob and I have our 3-day special. It is every college basketball play either Rob or I makes for 3 days. And we found out yesterday that if you send customer support a nice email, say hi to the girls at customer support that do such a tremendous job, they'll give you a full season rate on that as well. So, that is an option too. And maybe we'll get that up on the page just so it's offered on the page. We'll have to talk about that. But Rob Vino, 3-teamer today, just to switch it up. Someone in the chat asked, Trig, would you still play Abilene Christian -2? Yeah, you can, but like if it's -130, I think I'd rather have the money line in that scenario. The money line is what we're putting into the parlay. So Rob Vino is going to go with South Alabama +3.5. I'm going to go with Abilene Christian on the money line. I called it -130. And then we're going to put Elon -165. Rob and I agree. The chat seems to agree. It's almost like a consensus sort of chat play on Elon. That's going to be the third leg, +440 odds. Let's see if we can get it going today. Either way, we'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, to talk the Friday slate. Good luck today, everyone. Let's cash some tickets. We'll see you guys tomorrow.